The Royal Scots served with remarkable endurance and courage in the Far East Campaign, a brutal, often forgotten war within a war. Thousands of miles from home, they fought in jungles and hills, across vast seas. It outlasted the war in Europe, yet its stories were left in its shadow. Some faced the siege of Hong Kong, outnumbered, outgunned and overrun. After the colony fell, they endured shipwreck, starvation and forced labor. Many did not survive. Battles raged through Burma, a war of mud, monsoon and endurance. This film marks 80 years since the end of the war in the Far East and honors the Royal Scots who served, who suffered, who survived, and those who gave everything never to see home again. In 1938, the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Scots was posted to Hong Kong, part of Britain's effort to defend its Far East colonies amid rising tensions with Japan. Then, in December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and, within hours, turned its attention to Hong Kong. The Royal Scots and their allies, heavily outnumbered and under-equipped, stood ready to defend Hong Kong.
My reformed platoon was now in 3 pillboxes on the Wanchai waterfront. And we came under very heavy shelling there for all the days we held the position. The shelling appeared to be, first of all, to destroy our morale because some of it was pretty indiscriminate and hit the Chinese tenements behind us. I myself was wounded and most of the other chaps were wounded. And my brother, Captain Douglas Ford, saw the ground littered with corpses. He decided that it was useless to sacrifice any more lives. And there we lay all next day under heavy rain and heavy mortar fire.
At Fortress Headquarters at 3:15 on the afternoon of Christmas Day, General Maltby advised the governor, Sir Mark Young, that no further useful military resistance was possible. All units were ordered to break off fighting and to capitulate. Churchill later wrote, "The colony had fought a good fight. They had won indeed the lasting honor."
Over 3,500 troops lost their lives, Allied and Japanese alike, and thousands of civilians perished alongside them. It was a devastating toll in just 17 days of fighting. Following the surrender, thousands of Allied troops endured captivity in POW camps across Hong Kong, until, in September 1942, the order came. They were being transferred to Japan.
We were there from January until September. Next thing I knew that I was told I was going to Japan with I forget how many there were. I think there were about 1,800 of us.
Almost 2,000 prisoners of war, including hundreds of Royal Scots, were forced into the cargo hold of the Lisbon Maru, bound for Japan.
Well, they were put on a ship called the Lisbon Maru, which was one of the hell ships. Well, that's what he called it, because the prisoners were battened down under the hatches. Well, you remember they're in a hot climate. They weren't fed. I don't think they got much water, if any.
The vessel displayed no markings to indicate it was carrying prisoners of war. It was spotted by an American submarine and torpedoed. Many prisoners drowned. Others were machine-gunned in the water. Despite the dreadful scenes of panic and death, one Royal Scot, Norman Cuthbertson, showed incredible spirit, risking his life to help others survive.
Uncle Norman made sure that it was all done in an orderly fashion, and he put his Glengarry on, and another soldier said, "Why are you putting your hat on?" And he said, "If I'm going to meet my God, I'm going to be dressed properly."
He went back down again afterwards to make sure everybody was out. He's a hero, pure and simple.
Those who survived were recaptured and sent to prison camps in Japan.
They were heading for Japan, I believe, but they were taken off the ship at Shanghai Harbour and, as he put it, marched along Shanghai Harbour bollock naked except for their Sam Browne belts. He went to Osaka, to the camp in Osaka. Obviously they had a very hard time. They had to work from morning till night. A lot of it was harvesting fruit and vegetables and sugar cane, but if they ever tried to eat anything themselves and were caught, the Japanese would beat them. So they had to, if they had anything, they had to hide it. Oranges had to be eaten, skin, pips and all. And at times, if they were doing sugar cane, they would hide some of it inside their boots, so that they had extra vitamins from the sugar, because they weren't getting any from the food that they had, which was purely boiled rice.
There they remained for nearly 3 more years, enduring harsh conditions, starvation and forced labour. Norman Cuthbertson survived the sinking, only to lose his life to diphtheria shortly after reaching Japan.
I feel very proud of him, yes. I feel proud of all these men who gave us our freedom.
Hundreds of Royal Scots fought in the jungles of Burma from the Arakan to Kohima, in one of the longest and hardest campaigns of the war.
Fear was the main thing, you know. To me, it's a driving force, you know. That's what makes you do things that you don't want to do, you know. That's what I felt anyway. You know, when you're told to go into action, you didn't want to do it, but you did it. You made yourself do it, you know. Talk about heroes being brave, but to me, a hero was a guy that was scared stiff, but he had to do something. He felt he had to do something, and that's how they did, you know. Without them, you know. That's when they got up to Kohima. When we got up there, the place was littered with them, dead bodies, you know. Young Japanese guys lying dead, you know. Not nice, so. No. Just thought, what a shame. That guy, he's got a family, you know, somewhere. And that's what used to go in my mind.
I'm pleased to hear my dad talk about the Japanese in a human way, that, you know, they were just young men. And I think that's really important. And I think it's important that we actually tell these stories to understand how difficult it must have been for people to actually go through the war at that time.
When I got wounded, I got hit twice, you know. 2 wounds in that leg. Once the and once behind the back of my leg here, you know. I thought I was dying. I was lying at the top of the hill, couldn't move.
He told us when he was wounded, he says, I was digging a hole for my head. He says, because there was shells firing all round about me. I'd already been wounded. He says, and if I can bury my head, when the shell hits me, I'll be recognised.
During the night, it's freezing, you know, cold. And I was lying in a pool of water, or what I thought was water, but it wasn't, it was my blood. Lying in a pool of my own blood.
The liner Strathmore slides into harbour at Southampton. A boatload of men with but a single thought, home.
When the war in Europe ended, the men of the Far East campaign were still fighting. Their return home would not come for months. Many came home thin, sick and silent. Some Royal Scots had been away for 7 years. Some didn't return until 1947. There was little fanfare. Many felt forgotten.
He went obviously to his own parents' farm and was reunited with his family and his dog, who recognised him immediately when he walked in the door. He found it difficult to settle back into civilian life again because he'd been away for 6.5 years altogether. He had never seen his daughter and she had never seen him. Certainly, I don't think his time as a prisoner of war was recognised as much as those who were prisoners of war under the Germans, because Japan was so much further away, so I don't think people realised how much they went through and what they had to go through and what happened out there.
We never knew about any terrible things that happened during the war, and I know now it must have been a terrible thing for him, you know, and for all these young guys it must have been an awful thing. But as a child, we never knew about it.
As children, you would just come into the house and say, without thinking, I'm starving, I need some food. My father always got really angry and said, never ever are you allowed to say that, because you never have been and hopefully never will know what starvation is like.
Their sacrifice echoes through generations, felt not just in history, but in families, in memory, and in the lives they shaped. This was the forgotten war, but we remember. We carry their story forward, lest we forget.